What's up guys, Carmine here, and today we're going to be talking about some Game of Thrones prequel updates, and more specifically, George R.R. Martin dishing out some interesting tidbits and pieces of info on the new series. Now I know a lot of you guys are still annoyed and salty over Season 8 being a complete fuck up, and trust me, I am too to some extent, but I am looking forward to seeing what they can do without book material to go off of, and how they can utilize the world that George created and make it their own with interesting new stories that hopefully stay canon. There's nothing more annoying than investing time in something that won't matter in the grand scheme of things, especially with the upcoming books. I'll leave a link in the description below to the article if you're interested, but for now, let's get into it. So first and foremost, there are 5 new pieces of information that George had dished out, and number 1 has really caught my attention. It says, Westeros is divided into roughly 100 kingdoms in the prequel. We talk about the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. There were 7 kingdoms at the time of Aegon's conquest, Martin says, but if you go back further, then there are 9 kingdoms and 12 kingdoms, and eventually you go back to where there are 100 kingdoms, petty kingdoms, and that's the era we're talking about here. And I gotta say, this is pretty exciting and par for the course, considering that there are stories of how Stark fending off and consolidating power within the North and dishing out lands and resources to allies. One example is how, supposedly, the Starks were able to beat out the Greyjoys for control of Bear Island and handing it off to the Mormonts. When we start the series, each house already has and owes their own allegiance to the main great houses. But apparently back then, there wasn't just one great house. It was a free-for-all, and in a way, it was another game for the throne, just not the Iron Throne, but the throne, in a sense, of that specific region. And we kind of get a small glimpse of this in the Blu-ray's histories and lore of House Bolton. But if the Starks are their own smaller state, then I'm going to go ahead and assume that the series will focus on them trying to unite everyone else under their banners to beat back the Walkers. Kind of like what Jon did in the last 2 seasons. It would parallel the main series nicely, and as George Lucas once said, it's like poetry, it rhymes. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. The second piece of info is, of course, Starks and Direwolves will be in the new show. George says the Starks will definitely be there, and obviously the White Walkers are here as well, or as they're called in my books, the Others, and that will be an aspect of it. Now, we all knew that this would happen. There's no big reveal here, but what I do like is that, from the sound of it, they won't exactly be called White Walkers, which I hope is the case. The number one thing that the prequels need to do is separate themselves from the main series, and you do this by having your own flavor, your own style. You don't want to be compared to how great those first 4 to 5 seasons of Thrones were. You need to separate yourself and do your own thing. Like how Fantastic Beasts is a part of the Harry Potter universe, but it's still its own, thing. It has its own beats and rhythm to it. You can share a universe, but you still need to earn your place in it. That being said, I would like it if they're just called the Others, and then later on, the White Walkers as time continues. Because how many times in our history have we forgotten the true name and nature of things as time goes on, you know? It takes on, another identity. Makes sense. I'm also super excited to see, mammoths and direwolves and other creatures like that, which will most likely be used by wargs, which I hope have a bigger role to play. The third piece of info is that there will not be any Lannisters, at least not at first. George says, the Lannisters aren't there yet, but Casterly Rock is certainly there. It's like the Rock of Gibraltar, he says. It's certainly occupied by the Casterlys, for whom it's still named after in the time of Game of Thrones. As most of you know, Lan the Clever was able to swindle the castle from the Casterlys and create his own great house. The one thing I would love to see is if Lan the Clever, who I assume will be in the show, will be friends with the Starks or in some way, in some type of relationship with them, and by the end of the series, form his own house. Maybe even start out as a good guy or a neutral character and end up as a scumbag who is out for himself. Kind of like the reverse Jaime Lannister. When we first see Jaime in the show, he's kind of an asshole, and then later on we grow to kind of like him until Season 8 fucked him up. But still, I would like to see a reverse Jaime Lannister situation going on here, you know? Starts out nice guy, ends up scumbag. Once again, it's poetic, it rhymes. Fourth piece of info is that this will be a true ensemble and that there is no one lead, which once again, makes sense. In the main series, we had the Big Seven: Jon, Dany, Bran, Arya, Tyrion, Cersei, and Jaime. The story revolved around them for a majority of the time. We'll be getting that again here, and it's likely to start out with the 3 actresses listed in the article: Naomi Watts, Naomi Ackie, and Denise Goh, and focus on them heavily. Personally, I've heard of Naomi Watts. I don't think I've ever seen anything she was in. She's like one of those actors and actresses who are in things, but you know that they exist, but you don't really watch any of the films that they're in. You know what I'm saying? Naomi Ackie, I never seen her in anything. I'm going to see her in the new Star Wars film that she's going to be in, and that's about it. Denise Go, once again, never heard of her, never seen her in anything. So hopefully they're good actresses. If you have seen them in anything, please let me know in the comments below if they are good at all. And finally, the show will be called something entirely different. George suggested The Long Night, but it was used in the 3rd episode of Season 8, and he also heard that they might go with a variation of it along the lines of The Longest Night, which George thought was good, but I think it's kind of lame. The title Blood Moon seems to be a placeholder for what they're calling it right now, but I would like for the title to be separate enough from the main series. Once again, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them did this perfectly. As long as it's marketed well, people will know what to expect, so they don't need to worry about fans not being able to figure out what this is. But still, my main issue is that the White Walkers, who were kinda ruined in Season 8, will be the main focus of the whole thing. And I don't know, I've said it before, and I say it again. What I would like for a Thrones prequel, I would love an anthology series, like American Horror Story. Every season its own telling of, like, historical events of Thrones. That's what it should be. From the first battle against the White Walkers to Aegon's Landing and so forth. There are so many areas to explore and even new stories to craft that it practically prints money and writes itself. And not only that, but it also strays away enough from Season 8, which they know wasn't good, so whatever, but I'm still excited nonetheless. Guys, definitely let me know what you think about the whole thing. Are you excited for it? Are you not? I still think you all should give it a chance. I read my comments, and I know for a fact that some of you guys are just really not keen on Thrones right now, especially after Season 8, but they are doing something differently. It's not following book material, so you know they won't run out of material, and if it sucks, then that's on them. But HBO has been known to produce good content. The latter half of Game of Thrones aside, they always produce some good stuff. Season 1 of Westworld was awesome. The first few seasons of True Blood were great. You know, Boardwalk Empire was pretty awesome. The Wire, I hear good things about. Sopranos, so on and so forth. So HBO knows how to make good content. We just gotta hope it comes in here. But guys, once again, let me know what you thought. As always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, notification, ring that bell, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all next time. Baba Booey.